One, two. It's always an awkward start. Well, listen, I'm so glad you're listening. What I want to talk about today is how to destroy your addict finally and forever. So I want this broadcast to appeal to the people who want to that disease part of themselves, the part of themselves that's causing so much shame, so much suffering. When you think of that part, like maybe to your mind, what comes into my mind, Metallica, seek and destroy. I wanted to destroy that part of me, crush that part of me. That part of me, that addict part of me that brought me shame was diseased. And so we're going to talk about that today. And of course, it's not what you think, but I'm going to give you some guidance and potentially shift your perspective in a significant way in terms of how you treat yourself and others. What I'm sharing with you is a very interesting reality of human psychology based on the principles of parts work. We'll get into that in another podcast, but today we're going to destroy your addiction finally and forever. Okay. So before we do that, though, right, what are we destroying? What I want you to do now is first think about, like, if this addict part of you was a character in a movie, and it might be easy for you to connect, like, yeah, son of a gun, there is a part of me that just takes over and makes my life so miserable and makes me feel so bad about myself. Okay, I'm with you. I picture this part of myself. What does he look like? What does he smell like? How do you feel about this part of you? Right? Again, I'm appealing and looking for men who want to destroy this part of themselves. Right? We're talking the brothers who have a deep and profound self-loathing. Deep and profound self-loathing. I hate this part of me. I hate this part of me. What I'm going to do in this recording is I'm going to prove to you that that conflict, how you feel about yourself, is literally a major, major part of the problem. And I'm not asking you to believe anything I'm telling you. I want you to listen, um, challenge everything I say, research everything I say, um, use your own personal experience to connect with everything that I say. But if you're here, there's a good chance that there's a part of you that you hate, that you hate. And so let's start examining this part of us. And if you're watching live and you're watching the video, I'm going to share my screen with you. So let's share. I just did a webinar and it was so fresh, and I felt like the webinar was the best way that I packaged the information to make it accessible and set it in a clear way that made sense. And so hopefully you'll get value. So here is, right before we talked about how much you hate this part of yourself, maybe you want to kill this part of yourself in some cases. Obviously, if those thoughts are growing, please get the help, get the help that you need. I want to inspire you, to get help. And there was a time I needed crisis help. There was a time I needed other kinds of help. But we got to get the help that we need. And certainly if this triggers anything in you, talk about it with your therapist. And if you don't have one, get one. BetterHelp, is such a great resource for people. So anyway, this addict part of you that you hate, let's look at the needs that this part is meeting. So instead of all the negatives, the cost, right? And we can quickly go through the cost, right? So let's think of time being money, the amount of time that you're using watching pornography, the leakage, the nibbling around the edges, just time wasted, energy wasted, the shame, we can calculate a value to that. We can multiply that value. Oh, 2-3% impact on growth because you're not growing when you're stuck and hate yourself. We can calculate the cost of divorce. We can calculate the cost of maintaining two separate incomes, separate households over the course of a 5-10 year period. Calculate the cost. There is value in calculating the cost. Trust me. Trust me. There is just a little bit I said now, let me think about this for a second. People say, oh, no, it's not impacting me professionally. No, it's not impacting you professionally. How do you feel about yourself? Oh, I hate myself. I think I'm a worthless piece of shit. You're not thriving, right? You're not crushing it. You're not kicking ass. So the cost. Let's go the other direction. Let's look at the benefits. Yeah, benefits. I said it. The benefits. And the name of the exercise is called, what are the positive attributes of your compulsive behavior? What are the positive attributes of your compulsive behavior? So we did the cost, or at least we continue that. Keep calculating the cost. The more you learn, the higher that number gets. Keep doing that. Keep doing that. The sooner you get to happy and healthy, obviously, the better everyone in your life is. What I'm sharing with you today, I believe, certainly is a critical way for me to get there, a critical understanding that my clients need to get there. And I believe what we're talking about today is representing in some form the new gold standard in psychotherapy. We're talking about the internal family systems model. We're talking about the mindful habit system because we've been doing this kind of parts work now for over a decade. So we're looking at the good parts. And as you continue down this journey with me, you will, and I'll just point to the destination, you will get to a place where you realize that every single one of your bad habits is a part trying to meet a need the way he was trained. A part trying to meet a need the way he was trained. So let's look at what Addict was trained to do. And this is someone's exercise. This isn't me. I edited it and added a couple of ones together. But let's go through it. Okay. And I want you to think about this in your own life. Because when you really internalize the gravity of the needs that are being met, it's a pretty heavy realization. So, and I'll speak just from my perspective. My addict part provided, we'll use Jason's, provided an escape. An escape. And think how desperately, because how bad he felt about himself and the challenges that he faced. Never felt like he was good enough, but he had this escape. It gave him an escape from stress, work, family, responsibilities, from self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy, from worry, anxiety, and fear. This is his words. Feelings of not belonging. It was an escape from feelings of overwhelm, anger, resentment. It was an escape from the inner sense of wrongness about me. It allowed him to check out for a while where no one can bother me and nothing else matters. I meant to cue up the song, but I'll get a copyright strike if I play it, but you know the song. This is just number one. This is just number one. The needs that the addict part is meeting. Brings immense and intense pleasure and enjoyment. When you do not have pleasure and enjoyment in your life, let alone intense pleasure and enjoyment because you're so down, because you're so depressed, because you're so disconnected from your partner, because you feel so bad about yourself and work, it brought him immense and intense pleasure and enjoyment. Okay, this gentleman had a fetish and was watching some things that he knew his wife wouldn't like. It made him feel normal. Okay, he mentioned this again, stress relief, coping with stress. It gave him, think about that charge, that dopamine hit. excitement, anticipation. In his mind, because he was so down, he had nothing else to look forward to, but he had this. He had this to look forward to. It gave him a rush. He talked about it allowed him to enjoy other women while remaining committed, even though the impact certainly was analogous, similar. He connected with the woman. He was on social media. Just made him feel connected. He would pretend he was in the scene, helped him relax. It gave him something to look forward to. And here's the kicker. Here's the punchline, or certainly one of the punchlines to me. One of the punchlines that you've already gotten is that he used it to regulate his central nervous system. I used it to regulate my central nervous system. This isn't a horny issue, although libido is part of it. Here's what he says here, and imagine Gollum with the ring. He says, it's mine. It's mine. It's one of the things that I can go to that's mine after dealing with all other responsibilities, work, family, etc. It's mine. That shook me. That shook me. It's mine. So let's reflect. You reflect now and take notes. Make sure you're journaling. You must journal to be successful. To have a great life and channel this powerful energy, you must journal. So write down the needs that this behavior is meeting for you. Right. This bad habit, the same one that brings you shame, the same one that makes you feel terrible about yourself. What needs is it meeting? And the reason why that's critical is because to break a habit, you have to make the right habit that meets the right need. You have to make the right habits that meet the right needs. Can't just make a new habit that has nothing to do. And when you appreciate the needs that this addict part is meeting, one, I think, almost has to, if we do it right and go deep enough and you get it, and my job's to help you get there and inspire you to find a therapist or get help to do this digging, an internal family systems model therapist, or you do the parts work in our program. And you'll see in the chat, there's a podcast discount that we want to offer to all the awesome people who listen to us on our podcast, who want help processing this. Your addict part is meeting needs the way he was trained. Okay, and just a little bit on the part stuff. The Pixar movie Inside Out, Disney brought in the experts, and inside the teenage girl's mind were these different characters. We're not crazy. This doesn't mean you're crazy. We do have different parts of us, different masks that we wear. And there are some of these parts are in conflict. This is a natural extension of your reality. This is a scientific model that sits on top of what you're experiencing. So we discovered and learned about the needs that this part was meeting. The needs that this part is meeting in you. Okay, so we got that, right? And that's going to expand. You're going to learn more and more about that. But generally, you have a sense, okay, I get it. This part is meeting needs. How was this part trained to meet those needs? How was this part trained to meet those needs? So, say, for example, you were sitting across from a buddy. He throws a ball, doesn't mean to, but it's coming at your face really fast. Your hand snaps up, grabs that ball, protects your face, almost like you're a ninja. You can be out of shape. You could be overweight. You could be, but there's something, right? You're going to protect that face. Why? Because that is a trained, conditioned response. Using porn to or sex or pleasure to relieve pain is a trained, conditioned response. So instead of looking at your childhood as we often do in therapy as traumatic, and it may be all the more reason to really, really, really understand it. The way I love to look at it is I look at it from, and I want you to look at it from the perspective of, so wait a minute. So, right, I keep saying I don't want to do this thing, but I get triggered. I have these crazy thoughts. I instantly do that automatic, instantaneous thing. Why? Oh, it's because I'm a bad person. No, 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 no. And by the way, that feeling bad about yourself, I'm going to get to the punchline of all this, is literally a major part of the problem. A major part of the problem. So when we look at addicts training, and we go back to our developmental years, which anybody who knows anything knows that that's really important. It's important in attachment theory. It's important in cognitive behavioral therapy. It's important in the internal family systems model. These bad habits, these reactions were trained in us. They are not, they have a biological underpinning, certainly a biological, all of it, a biological everything, part of that habit cycle. That reaction was trained. So, like Batman, Superman, the Joker, the villain, the characters in Doom Patrol, which I love, they all have an origin story. They all have an origin story, right? You know anything about comic books, you know the origin story. Your addict part has an origin story. Think comic book now, okay? The part of you that lies, right? How many here tell stupid lies to their wives sometimes? Is that a cup? No, it's not a cup. Of course it's a cup. Why would you lie about the cup? There's no reason to lie about the cup, but you told that automatic, instantaneous lie. That is a trained, conditioned response. Okay? You get angry in the car, right? I mean, maybe the only part of your day where you are alone and you could have peace and quiet and tranquility, put on the music that you want as loud as you want, the temperature exactly the way you want it, and you're getting angry in traffic, or that automatic, instantaneous reaction at the central nervous system level. That is a trained, conditioned response. You catch the ball, a trained, conditioned response. You act out sexually, trained, conditioned response. So when you look at the origin story of addict, there's the non-sexual origin story timeline, and then there is the sexual origin story timeline. So let's go look at the sexual origin story timeline. The sexual origin story timeline likely was, if you look at it from a training perspective, and if you look at it as a father today and have a son and realize that you are helping him channel one of the most powerful forces in human nature. Son, I'm here to talk about, this inherent power that can bring you great joy and can create life and create great pleasure, can destroy you and bring you to your knees. But we're not going to talk about it. Right? The training that we got, I got the Catholic training. And listen, all of our parents did the best they could. We're not blaming. There's no blaming. Now, there's a place for letting that anger out. I've been there. I get it. I want to support it. But when that's not what this is. We're looking at the training. How are we trained? Sex was dirty and disgusting. Like, don't touch yourself. That's gross and yuck and penis and bowels and shit and gross, dirty. You piggy, sick. I mean, like, certain words hit you, right? Pervert, sick, piggy, gross, right? Ugh, like, that it's dirty and disgusting, but you save it for someone you love. You save it for someone you love. Now, some of you got the fire and brimstone. A lot of you got the shame. Some of you got nothing. Some of you got nothing. So when you look at that from a training perspective, Why does he use sex to emotionally and physically regulate? Well, because it is literally the oldest and most impactful habit in existence. Because when you get back to the earliest feeling, we knew that ouch, that caused pain, and that massaging my hand or whatever feels pleasurable, and touching my penis and other parts of my body, my anus, my nipples, that feels pleasurable. That's we learn that. We learn that, right? So right at the like the earliest pleasure and pain connection, that connection was made. Then that connection evolved, not in a place where you were trained to direct and channel that powerful energy with lots of education, evidence-based education, open, non-judgmental, helping child navigate and to become a healthy sexual beings in whatever kind of relationship they choose, which is what our job is. Hard, really, really hard. But nonetheless, right, we didn't get that, right? Some of us got it worse, right? Sometimes there was sexual trauma, sexual abuse. Sometimes the misogyny, the conflict between the dad who had the porno magazines and the dad who like whacked you for doing the same thing. So there's a sexual training piece, and you all have your own sexual training. Document that. Figure that out, right? Write it down. Where did your addict come from? Where did the so then that's the sexual part. That's the sexual part. The non-sexual part, if you haven't taken your ACE score, if you don't know what your adverse childhood experience score is, Google it and take that test. Most places you can do it without entering your email address. You can take a test on NPR. It's got a great test. It gives you your results. That is a test that helps people understand did or did they not experience adverse childhood experiences. For some people who are completely, stepping into this space for the first time, it can bring a lot of knowledge. And basically, the knowledge is that if these bad things happen to you as a kid, the chances of you being obese, having cancer, having heart disease, attempting suicide, being hospitalized, receiving mental health treatment, getting COPD, like it's like are ridiculously higher. And the higher the number, the higher you go. So that's one way to here. And I'm going to put that in the chat. And that way you can have that link. Everybody should take this quiz. Everybody should know their number. Now, just remember the quiz is measuring the presence of childhood experiences in different categories. Meaning, you could have a score of a 1, which is really low. One is really low, but the 1, let's say you were sexually abused, that 1 can have an impact like it was a 10. So it's not measuring impact, it's measuring existence. Did you experience what the world scientific community calls adverse childhood experiences? All right. So take that test. So, Addict, we talked a little bit about his sexual origin story. And for some of us, whoo, that was pretty banged up. Let me know in the chat, banged up, if that's you. And write it down in your journal if you're listening to this later on. Like banged up, broken, that's the training. Why am I this way? I feel so terrible. I'm this way. Sometimes a partner will say, I can't believe he lied to me. And I don't say it. But I help them process and understand and unpack. But my first thought is, how could he not? Because let's look at the shame. He was trained to hide this aspect of pleasure seeking behavior is literally one of his oldest and certainly oldest and most impactful habits, right? Think about that. That's what you're up against, right? That you got to understand the scope of the problem. Oh, I just want to stop. It's no big deal. You have been using it at the lynch, the pivot point of pain and pleasure, using it to escape, to numb, as a reward, regulating your central nervous system, stress management, right? So fear management. Oh, where'd that come from? So there's a sexual piece of the sexual origin story, and just spend a little bit of time on the non-sexual origin story. Understanding your ACE score will help you say, oh, wait a minute, these events that I experienced, and remember, we're all on a spectrum, and you don't have to have what is traditionally called trauma, right? So I'm talking to the non-trauma brothers now, that for events not to be impactful. They definitely were impactful because that's how you were trained. You were trained to hide. You were trained to lie. You were trained to subordinate your, and listen, all the patterns, all the problems that you're having in your relationship, trained condition responses. It is why also everybody should know their attachment style. So there is this concept called attachment style, attachment theory. I am putting that link in the chat. Do it, have your partner do it. If you're not in a relationship, do it anyway. It's an instant treasure trove of information. Like the A score is, oh, what the A score does is says, oh, maybe I need to pay attention to some of this stuff. The attachment project gives you your attachment style. And where do we learn to attach? How were we trained to attach, to bond, to connect with other human beings? We were trained to bond in our childhood. We were trained to connect, to be vulnerable, to be honest, to express ourselves, to meet needs, to subordinate our needs. All the good, bad, the ugly is a trained, conditioned response. And just to invoke mother for a moment, almost most men that I work with are projecting mother onto their spouses. In other words, they're going to get in trouble. They're the bad boy. Oh, I better, like hiding things from her. They don't feel like they're an equal. They feel like they're the one down. They feel like, the mommy's going to get them in trouble. And then they get caught doing this, and now they got to report out. And here's my phone, and here's my directions, and here's where I am. That reinforces that projection of mother. That projection of mother was trained. The angry response that you have in traffic was trained. When you respond to your wife's questions by either shutting down or getting angry, or when all, quote unquote, all you had to do was to respond intelligently, to respond in a way, hey, you know what, I don't know, let me think about that for a second. Respond in a way that created a better outcome. And if you're not in a relationship, your professional relationship, wherever there's a power dynamic, right, there's someone feeling small. So when we look behind the mask of addict, the shameful part that we thought about when we started this journey, and get a sense of his sexual origin story and his non-sexual origin story, if we're going to put that whole bit into one we'll call addict, well, goodness gracious, shaming that part, trying to kill that part, hating that part, shaming that part, I think I said that already, that can't be part of the solution. In fact, it is a major part of the problem. How you feel about your addict part is how you feel about yourself. Now we know it's meeting needs. Now we know where he came from. Now we know how he was trained. Is it the solution to destroy him? To cast him to the pits of hell? A lot of fire and brimstone here around addict. No, that is absolutely, absolutely, absolutely not what's going to make things better for you. When is a monster not a monster? Oh, when you love it. And let me read some words, okay? I want to just read. Bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you. What if that applied internally as well as externally? Be known for the love you show to those who treat you poorly. Your addict part is treating you poorly. For if you love those who love you, what reward shall you have? So there's already an existing framework for many of you that says, what I'm doing, I am not shepherding, I am not leading, I am not extending agape love to this part of me. I am hating this part of me. I am demonizing this part of me. And that is making it profoundly worse. Check out this poem. It's going to take 90 seconds. Start Here by Caitlin Seal. I will put the chat in her in the link. I'll put her website in the link. Start by pulling him out of the fire and hoping that he will forget the smell. He was supposed to be an angel, but they took him from that light and turned him into something hungry, right? Like your addict part. Something that forgets what his hands are for when they aren't shaking. Oh my God. He will lose so much, and you will watch it all happen because you had him first, and you will let the world break its own neck if it means keeping him. Start by wiping the blood off his chin and pretending to understand. Repeat to yourself, I won't leave you. I won't leave you until you fall asleep and dream of the place where nothing is red. When is a monster not a monster? Oh, when you love it. Oh, when you used to sing it to sleep, here are your upturned hands. Give them to him and watch how he prays like he is learning his first words. Like he doesn't even know what to do with it. Start by pulling him out of another fire and putting him back together with the pieces you find on the floor. There is so much to forgive, but you do not know how to forget. When is a monster not a monster? Oh, when you are the reason. When you are the reason it has become so mangled. Here is your humble offering, obliterated and broken in the mouth of this abandoned church. He has come back to stop the world by turning itself inside out, and you love him. You do, so you won't let him. Tell him that you will never know any better. Pretend to understand why that isn't good enough. So your solution, take that in for a second, right? Your solution is unconditional love. Love for every cell in your body. This is how I had to, okay, every cell, every space between every cell, right? The busted neck, broken hip, corrupted brain, dirty genitals, sick mind, abhorrent thoughts. Yes. Every cell, every space between cell. And it's, it's like parts of me that, you don't believe that, right? The imposter part, the shame part. But here's what you listen, your way doesn't work. Your way doesn't work. So I am following the science. I like this outcome better than that outcome. When I hate myself, when I shame myself, when I abuse myself, I want to numb, cope, and escape from that shame and abuse. So no more, no more, no more self-abuse. Now listen, there's a path, there's a challenge. This is complicated. It's why there are millions of great places out there to help you. Celebrate that. Um, that's what it is. You're learning goal, and this is a weird way of saying it, operationalizing love for self. The goal is operationalizing love for self. And listen, I understand how that might sound, and I understand the natural reaction and resistance to it. And Frank, if I go too early, too soon on some of these concepts, you lose people. Here I am. I'm going to the punchline. I'm going to the place that I know if you keep working on yourself and keep trying to solve this problem and keep that moment when you realize like that liar part is trying to keep you from getting in trouble. The angry part is so you get whatever done needs to get done. Instant attention, instant significance, big, 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 big. Here's the problem. Bigger the anger, deeper the wound, smaller the inner child. That formula has served me well in helping people understand why they're so reactive, right? What is there? You pick a reactive part, an out of control part. We'll together and you start now, find that origin story. How was this part trained? Be in awe of those automatic, instantaneous, negative reactions that make your life worse. Study them. For me, I was obsessed with them. Every energy shift, every nudge, every time I felt like I was slipping into that one down power dynamic with my wife or a business partner or someone bagging my groceries because I got confused and didn't answer the right way, right? It's everywhere. So learning to manage fear, your central nervous system, and then redefining what's happening at that moment of impact. So at that moment of impact, that trigger, you've made a mistake, you've stumbled on the sidewalk, and your first thought is, you stupid piece of shit. That's what I would say to myself, and I'm just going to use the real language, right? You should not be censoring your journaling or those thoughts. That's a problem. Okay, you're having them. That which you resist persists. So I know my language bothers some people, but I want you to understand why. I want to give you space and inspire you to start writing down these thoughts and start saying, wait a minute, that automatic instantaneous thought that I had in response to that stimuli, get curious about it. Why? That moment, as I mentioned, you trip on the sidewalk, that first thought, you piece of crap, like, whoa, wait a minute. Why did that happen? In that moment, it happened like a nanosecond. If you got to look at like as fast as like seeing light at the speed of light, neurons connecting, right? My first thought was, right? Why is that first thought when I get asked an innocent question about, do you know where the cup is? And I put no, or no, here's a good one. Did you empty the trash? Yes. She comes home, the trash is so no. Now, the good news is you get better at it. The good news is you get better at it. And what you're doing, like just to tie it all back practically, like loving your parts, right? When you love your parts, you're able to work with them. You get the whole team rowing in the right direction. You retrain them. You don't want to be anchored to an addict identity for the rest of your life. You want to be healthy. You want an identity of success, of pride, of resourcefulness and overcoming and whatever that identity is, family, right? You want to be consumed by that identity, and within that identity there's a deep knowledge and understanding that that energy must be channeled and directed. That part must be managed. So when you experience the inevitable trials and tribulations of life and you're lower than you've ever been, or when you have a triggered like you've never been before, or about to embark on a new adventure and the fear is overwhelming and consuming you, guess what? You're going to have crazy thoughts. Your part is going to awaken. Your triggers and whatever you got going on in your brain is going to awaken. And so that's why understanding these parts and not hating them, why hating them makes things so much significantly worse. So that, my dear friends, is the moral of this story. What can you do from a small perspective, an attainable perspective? Self-care, dial up, 1% a week. One small trivial action that has you moving in the right direction. You want to create a culture of momentum, not failure. Do not set goals that are not attainable. Okay, stop setting goals that aren't attainable. Just because you want it to be one does not make it attainable. And listen, explaining to our wives, this is the hard part, brothers, too. Honey, I lied about this. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you the truth. But I have been a terrible steward of my sexual energy, my sexual part. Not terrible steward. I'm an addict. And this started a long time ago and has been a significant and powerful numbing, coping, and escaping strategy since I was a child. And of course, this is when people drop off. I'm helping you to explain the scope of the problem that you're trying to solve. That this is the oldest and most impactful habit. What is this? Lying about some aspect of your sexual expression to just get pleasure and avoid pain is literally one of the oldest and most impactful behaviors that you can name. Don't believe me? You think about it. Challenge me. Let me know in the chat. What's worse? What's older and more impactful? You can't just think of older, or you can brainstorm older, write older down. I want to encourage comment. So write older down. An older habit than you lying, hiding, touching yourself. Older, you'll find some older ones, but when you add the second qualifier of more impactful, no. Nope. You will be challenged in that reality. It's important for you to be able to explain that to your partner, men, because there's a real serious reality. And I'm going a bit off on a tangent, and let me know in the chat if this is something you'd like me to do a video on, please. I want to be responsive to you guys. And don't forget, if you subscribe to me, you can join me live. There's a couple of guys here. You can ask me some questions. I'm posting the links that I'm posting. And what the heck was I going to say? Now I need someone to save me. I hope someone was listening. Oh, partners. Well, I apologize. I do not remember what I was going to say. What I do want to say is, I remembered. For most of you, your partners are receiving your actions and your lies as you are intentionally doing something to her. Right? There's a level of intentionality that's getting attached to your actions, right? You meant to do this. Not only did you cause great harm, you meant to do it, you intended to do it, and you're bad because of it. Okay, she's receiving this, And so that's her reality. And listen, her pain is real. You've got to make her feel safe. That's mandatory, right? Um, she feels so devalued, so insecure, like not good enough, all insecurities reinforced. And so, a problem that must be addressed if the couple's going to move forward together. And there's another reality that we didn't intend. Our experience is very different than their experience. And we've been lying about some aspect of our sexual expression since we were a child. Should we have? No, 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 no. But right, guys, doesn't it means very different to us than it does to them? Very different to us than it does to them. Now, that's the growth opportunity for you. Learning, help me understand your perspective. And there's a reality that at least none of the people I've ever worked with, no one intended to cause that harm. No one intended to cause that harm. And to tie it back, how to destroy your addict, right? Within that sexual, within that non sexual, there's sometimes intimacy issues, sometimes erectile dysfunction issues. Learning to connect is like, think about the training that you learn to connect sexually. Like, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So I want to acknowledge that challenge for some men. But at the end of the day, learning the jobs that your parts are doing, the needs that they're meeting, loving them unconditionally, ending the self feud, the gang war happening in your head, feeling good about yourself. Because people who feel good about themselves create positive outcomes. People who feel good about themselves don't hurt themselves. Don't like, oh, look, I'm not stabbing my arm. I don't want to hurt myself. I'm not going to poison myself. I'm not going to poison my relationship. I recognize that hey, what might be right for someone else is not right for me. So there's an identity with that change. This is a choice. Right? This is how I honor my parts. So that is how you destroy your addict finally and forever. Click the link if you are interested in working with me. Actually, in my core training program, it's a 16-week program. There is a special podcast discount, so you can click that link if you're interested. And I hope you all are well. Let me know in the chat if you have any podcast ideas or any questions I said lead you to other questions. I would love to build on these principles because there is so much to build around these concepts. There are so many layers. Yeah, and I continue to be on my journey and I love sharing it with you. It has been the most impactful thing that I've ever done in my life is figuring out this part stuff and this unmet needs stuff and training and programming and putting all that family of origin stuff in context into a way that allows me to take actual practical value from it. Like, hello, like, what do I do with all that stuff? Right. Well, this gives you a framework on exactly what to do with that training and where to put it and how to heal it, and create a framework for moving forward, meeting those needs proactively. So I hope you learned a little bit on more on how to destroy your addict finally and forever. If you are interested in learning more about parts work, I recommend the book No Bad Parts by Dr. Richard Schwartz. That book is No Bad Parts by Dr. Richard Schwartz. The article, How to Quit Bad Habits Without Willpower by the wonderful Eric Baker. I'm going to put that in the chat and send it around with this so you can watch it. And the other book for my Christian brothers, the other book is Altogether You by Jenna Remersima. Jenna Remersima, Altogether You. It is a must read. It is a must read. I have it on every one of my guys' mandatories reading list because it brings the parts science of the parts perspective into an existing spiritual one that like blows most of my clients' minds when we really unpack it. It is unbelievable. It is so impactful. I'm going to be talking about it more just because, just to see the impact that it's had on people, it's been really, really amazing. So, those two resources I highly recommend. And, right away, you can try, right? Try to, whenever you start to yell at yourself or say something stupid, you can use your awareness of that trigger, of that thought, like, oh, right? Kindness. What can I do right now to be kind? Right? If I'm stuck with this part, a flying elbow to the face probably isn't going to inure trust. But is one small trivial action that I can do to love this part of me a little itty bitty teeny tiny bit more? Where within my spiritual framework can I pull? What ideas or what concepts that reinforce that reality? And from a scientific perspective, how you feel about a part is how you feel about yourself. And you will always lose in a fight with yourself. And that is how to destroy your addict finally and forever. Oh, when is a monster not a monster? When you love it. Thank you. I'm Craig Pera. This is Sex Afflictions and Porn Addictions. And if you need more help, visit the website www.themindfulhabit.com. Peace and love, brothers and sisters. Honored that you're here, and make it great. See you next time. And let me know what you want me to talk about.